Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Armchair Racers podcast. My name is Austin Belkey. As always, along with my co-host Kenny Kibbe. We'll get straight into the episode. We have a lot of stuff to talk about and an incredibly funny guest. So without any further ado, we'll get into the news.
Yeah, so first things first, Ty Dillon will actually be the first driver to test out the new 2311 Racing for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan. He'll be running the Clash in the number 23 car. Ty Dillon, of course, doesn't really have a lockdown ride um, this year, so um, he's going to be kind of bouncing around, I have a feeling. So I just realized we're in the lobby for Western PA. Technical
Oh,
difficulties.
jeez, we've messed up big time.
Well, real quick, we'll go into a voice call since it's right at the beginning. There we go. All set.
That was very, very bad timing. We
Well, it could have been a lot worse. I could have been like, "All right, time to bring our guest in," and be like, "Oh shit!" But
we ripped this whole thing up.
we digress. Anyways, yeah, Ty Dillon in the 23 car. You think he'll mount to anything in that car?
Gosh, I hope so. I mean, it's basically like a fifth JGR car, so I'm hoping it's just between like the Furniture Row car, the 78, obviously 77 wasn't too bad, and then the 95 car, LFR. Um, I mean, basically, I mean they're gonna have that same equipment, basically, of like, hey, you're practically a Joe Gibbs racing car, but you're not really. And I really hope Ty does something good because he's always been someone when he had good equipment, he did well. But as soon as he made it to the Cup, he got with Germain, and Germain wasn't bad. They had decent cars, but just okay, largely decent. And I think Ty kind of had more talent than that car could offer him, and we saw shimmers of that. Um, Sparks, if you will, a couple times, like Bristol this year, especially fighting off Clint Boyer, and then at the Roval when he put on the slick tires and he just
Yeah.
was the field. Granted, tire advantage, but there's also, I mean, he was driving very very well, and he didn't make a single mistake. So I hope he does well. I hope that car does decent, being their first year out. And I hope he gives Bubba a very very high bar to step up to, and I hope that Bubba can reach that high bar.
Yeah, and Ty's always been pretty solid on the road courses too, and that's kind of been Bubba's weak point is the road courses too. So there's potential that they could be like, well, Bubba Wallace he's not really a road course guy. But I hope that, like you said, anyways, that Ty Dillon sets the bar high.
The next point of news is NASCAR Heat 5 is sponsoring a car. So this isn't new for them to be sponsoring a car. It just sucks to see like that much money being poured into something that isn't developing the game, which in my opinion, and I'm sure many other people's opinion, could use a lot of development.
Yeah, I wonder. There's like a what is it called? NASCAR 21 is supposed to come out this year.
I
Um,
don't know what that's about.
yeah, it's like a completely fresh start. I don't even know if it's developed by the same people. Um,
Gosh, I hope not.
I'm pretty sure it's like a clean slate. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I totally agree with you that why are you why are you sponsoring? Who knows how much that cost? And
Especially when they run it on the Unity engine or whatever. I mean, like Unity engine is okay, like for your first time, but when this is your fifth game in the franchise and you're still using the engine, like do something to improve the AI, do the tracks, or like how the cars handle because that game needs so much. It's just trash.
agreed.
The next point of news is we're just talking about the Speed Week schedule in case you haven't heard. So obviously Tuesday, the Bush Clash, 7 p.m. Basically, 7 is like when everything starts for this almost this entire week, except for I believe Saturday. The Xfinity race starts at 5.
Yeah, not a whole lot of new news this week. However, there's been some Xfinity series A lot of silly season stuff going on over the past couple of weeks. The most recent is actually Natalie Decker will be running 5 Xfinity races this season with RSS Racing, which that's Ryan Sieg's team. And it'll be the number 23, which I thought was kind of interesting. That used to be the Gallagher Motorsports number. Um, and I saw an interesting tweet yesterday by Julia Landauer, which she used to be a K&N driver. She drove one of the Sunrise Fords, I believe it was. And I think now she's in the NASCAR Euro Series, if I remember correctly. She basically said that it was a shame. It's a shame to see people just being able to buy rides. That they don't do anything in the lower tier, and yet they still get to move up. Um, and she believes that the top tiers of motorsport should have top tier drivers. That should be what it's about. And I had to like the tweet. I couldn't agree more. And it's really interesting coming from her because she went into the K&N series. She didn't do fantastic, and now she's off doing something else because it just didn't work out. Which, that to me should be what these drivers do when they aren't really successful in a discipline. They shouldn't be able to just move up. I know money talks and everything, but it's just frustrating. I mean, I know Nally Decker got what like a fifth place or something like that at Daytona, and that was it. That was in the trucks, and that was it. Some other silly season stuff in Xfinity. Joe Graff Jr. is returning to SS Greenlight Racing. Jason White is actually returning to NASCAR. He's running for Ryan Sieg's team also at Daytona. Jason White, he drove in trucks for a while. A lot of sponsor stuff going on. I'm not going to talk about that. The Bassett brothers, I think it's Ronnie and Dylan, maybe? They're going to be attempting the full season, bouncing back and forth between drivers. Danny Bowen is going to make his Xfinity debut at Daytona. A lot of like smaller teams. Um, Tommy Joe Martins is returning to a full season. That was the number 44 car. Just scrolling through J-Ski here real quick. Andy Lally's going to be driving at the Daytona Road Course. Greg Galding's going to be full-time for Jimmy Means Racing. That's the number 52 car. Ty Gibbs will make an Xfinity debut at the Daytona Road Course. JD Motorsports will have Ryan Vargas full-time. And I think we talked about this last week. Jordan Anderson will be full-time in Xfinity as well. So that kind of hits on all the main silly season points recently in the Xfinity series. We can move on to the iRacing stuff.
Yeah, the first thing we have on our list, and we'll probably have to change our list and how we talk about it now. But anyways, SCRL, now it's GTWL for Grand Tour World League or whatever. I don't know what it is. It changes every 3 weeks. But we were at Spa this week. Slightly better turnout than last week. Um, Brian Meldorf qualified in the pole. I was like a tenth off him, and then Matt was like probably a couple tenths off me, and then the rest of the field was just a couple tenths all the way down. Race started. I had nothing for him. I was just gonna ride around, and eventually he started to gap me a bit, and then it was like 2 seconds for most of the race, and we were gapping Matt and the rest of the field. And then on the last lap, um, we heard Brian timed out of our team speak and then timed out of iRacing. So I ended up winning at Spa. So that was cool. Fastest car didn't win the race. You hate to see it for Brian. Of course, I love to see it. Um, but as always, it was a good time. Moving on to BRL and the street stocks. Uh, Kenny, we actually got tangled up in a wreck. I don't know why, but I know Joe had to check up, and then I checked up, and then we were coming out of the corner. So it just got later and later for you to check up, and we were on the straightaway at that point.
Yeah, I was mashing the gas. I was getting frustrated because I started deep in the field and it was just a parking lot. It was 2x2 for like 3, 4 cars deep and nowhere to go. And I was trying to make runs, trying to see where I could take them, and um, I was hard on the gas off of 2 and saw you kind of go up the track, and then um, I just didn't have time to check up, and I ended up hitting you, and you came down, and then what was it, Jason ended up clobbering
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah.
I cleaned up Jason.
And that was the only caution in that race, wasn't it? And I tried storming through the field. I was really aggressive, and I got up to like 7th or 8th. And to my surprise, my right front was gone. I ended up with like 76% on that tire at the end. I couldn't make any moves anymore. I was actually playing defense. Brian got by me at the end. So I really hate how those cars are built anymore. Way too tight
Yeah,
from the setup.
before it was different. Like they weren't tight and they weren't loose, but the tires could really take a beating. Anymore, they're super tight and the tires suck.
Yeah, I mean, I used to like that the street stocks would slide around and stuff, but they like don't do that anymore. They just push big time, just like everything else.
So we'll move on to the SKs.
Tours.
Oh yeah, sorry. I started third. Kenny, where did you start? Like fifth?
I started 6th.
Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Upside the outside row. We're going and Joe goes. He was on the pole. Mike Allen was second. I'm not sure if Mike Allen missed a gear or what, but we started going. Um, and I thought I left the outside room plenty of space, and I did. But Mike Allen like didn't go, and then Steven took him 3 wide on the front stretch to try pass him, and I guess Mike Allen just started to crowd him. Um, and then Steven and I got together, and we wrecked pretty much the entire field.
Yeah, I almost got through it. I got rear-ended, and then I came down the track, and I was just kind of coasting, and then all of a sudden I just got clobbered on the right side, and it
I
basically
mean, pummeled.
pinned me into the wall, and gave me pretty terminal engine damage. And turns out Brennan Myers in the 25 car he had wrecked, and he had lost his steering, and he was just going straight. I do wish he would have hit his brakes a little bit more and slowed down, but nonetheless hit me. I hit the wall, and sucks because I could have pitted under closed pits and gotten my fast repair and at least stayed on the lead lap. But I thought that I could make it around one more time, so I didn't pit, and I blew up on the backstretch. Had to tow, went 4 laps down, stayed 4 laps down. I ended up like 12th or so, and so my race was pretty boring. I know you got back on the lead lap, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was surprised you didn't pit under closed pits. I watched your stream back and I was like, man, Kenny's engine was really hurting. I was really surprised you didn't pit. But live and learn. Hindsight's last year. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to put me a lap down. There must because I never got passed by the pace car or by the leaders. I figured like Steven hit my car. I'm pretty sure I hit a wall, and I know a lot of cars hit me. So I figured I had terminal engine damage, and at some point it was just going to blow up, or I was going to be super underpowered. So the last thing I wanted to do was start back in like the top five because I think that's where it put me after the caution flew and we lined back up. And I said, nope, I'm not going to take my fast repair because we're idiots. We'll just get involved in another wreck. Um, so I just went down pit road and went to the back of the pack, and I was just going to ride come back out on the track, and I was like lining up fourth behind the pace car, and it was showing me that 3 other people I was with were on my same lap, and everyone else behind us was like on the lead lap. Like it waved around all the lead lap cars, like all the cars in front of us three. But apparently, I was the only dipshit up there that was had already been lapped or something. So huge error in the timing and scoring on iRacing's part. Kind of pissed that it just got away with that. But anyways, I raced to get the lucky dog and got up there. I think I finished sixth or something, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you ended up 7th. Well, I'll go back real quick to the street stocks. JR ended up beating James Lowe for the street stock win, just barely. Um, and then it was flip flopped in the tour mods. We had James beating out JR. I think James took advantage of JR on the last restart. He was on the high side. And then Steven Spies, he did not race the street stocks. He ended up third. Justin Morton fourth, Joe Segala fifth, Kurt Smith sixth, you were seventh, and Mike Allen was eighth. I ended up 12th, like I said before. Um, so Mike Allen will be on the pole next week, and that moves us on to the Grand National Series, which you were on the pole for that one, and you had a pretty a decent, at least first quarter of that race, holding off the field. We had quite a few cautions though, which kept
Dude, every
bogging
time.
everybody down. Yeah,
Every
I
time I'm up front, there's always a bunch of cautions.
I was let's see, where did I start? I started seventh. Yeah, I got up to third pretty quickly, and so basically began a battle between you in first, James Lowe in second. I was in third. I think it was Jr. was in fourth. Um, Mark or Justin was in fifth, and then Mark or Justin was in sixth. And it was a really intense battle for the first, like, I don't know, 20 to 30 laps. And then finally on a restart, you got a really good jump and allowed me to get by James. So I got in a second. Then we had another caution. Next restart, I got a really good turn one and two on the high side, cleared you for the lead, and I ran away with it. Um, and then I led for a while. We had a couple decent runs, and we got a caution, a couple cautions, and JR by that time had gotten the second. Um, and then I was fighting him off. I was. It looked like on the broadcast that I was chewing up my tires, but I really wasn't. I was just putting down some good laps. I was running smooth. I felt really confident. Um, and it got to the point where we were like at lap 70 or so, and the guys behind me were going to have to start going, and I was just going my pace. And then we got a caution around like lap 80-ish, and then on the ensuing restart, JR was trying to be on my right rear, right on my quarter panel if he could. I know he's trying to stay next to me and pin me down going into turn one. He just slightly misjudged things and hit me in the right rear in turn one and spun me around, but which I didn't get much damage from. I still took my fast repair because I got hit a little bit later, but just completely piled up the whole field. And go talk about that from your perspective, Austin, because I know you're a couple cars back.
I'll just start from the beginning and then we'll get up to that. Yeah, started on the pole, had a couple of good restarts. Had the restart of my life. I actually beat James. One to like just fully cleared him. Um, and that was the first time I'd ever done that. And then sure enough, we got another caution. The restart before that though, I actually got saved by the caution for the first time ever because he was on my outside. We were fighting. I got loose off turn two, and I was like, "Damn, that's it. That's my race." James is gonna pass me, and I'll just go to the back, and a lot sooner than I thought. But the caution came out at the perfect time because I kept the lead, and then after that, I cleared James, and that's when you passed him. Um, I was trying really hard to conserve my tires. I mean, super hard. Um, like 1% every 10 laps conservation. And I was really worried that you weren't saving your tires, especially when you just drove around me on the outside because I was like, I'm not pushing. I didn't think you were gonna push either, but then once you cleared me and I just got freight train, I was like, well, even more incentive to conserve my tires. So I thought I really had something for a top three run there. And yeah, we're just going into the turns one and two, and I just see you and JR fighting, and all of a sudden you are just sideways across the track. It wasn't like he dumped you; he just got you sideways, and then you like locked it down, but you were perpendicular to where you should have been, and you were just sliding. So there was no gap. So I just had to stand on the brakes and try to not cause a caution. And of course, the field behind us, a wreck means free spots. So put your foot to the floor and see what you can get for some people, and that unfortunately was the case for some, not for others, not for the four of us. You, JR, Justin, myself, all went to the back.
Yeah, man, I almost saved it too. I got really loose, and of course I'm gonna cut the wheel right, and just as soon as it bit with grip, it just whipped right around, and I just kind of did a lazy spin. Now, granted, at least I was able. I didn't get just demolished by the whole field, and I didn't smash the wall, but then I did get some contact with one of the last cars coming through the field. But um, I took my fast repair anyways, regardless of what the state of my car was, and it was late on in the race, so I wasn't going to lose any more spots. So I was back to like 12th or so. So yeah, it took out of the front. It took out me. Um, Jr. decided to pit because of it. I know he felt really bad about it. Um, you, Justin, it took all of us out of contention, and I put James up in the front with Steven Spees and Brian Dean as the top three, and that's how it ended up finishing. We ended up with one more caution and then another restart, and that's how it ended. So good runs for Steven Spees this week, a third in the mods and a second in the Grand Nationals. The results end up being James Lowe, Steven Spees, Brian Dean, Bruce Pearson, Ruben Altis, Mark Herzog, another guy that was up front that he kind of got caught up in the wreck, but he stayed out and got away with it. Ryan Seneker and Jason Menda will be on pole next week. So yeah, myself, JR, you, Justin, all of us outside the top eight will have to work our way through the field next week.
Yeah, I mean, we had like 13 laps to try and make something of our races after that wreck, and I thought it was going to be interesting to see the four of us have to go through the field because my tires were great. I mean, we spun out, so they weren't as good as they were before, but I still felt really comfortable in my car to weave through the field. But there's it's a parking lot back there, and it's just like crazy. Like I don't know what we're doing, but slamming on the brakes and checking up in weird ways, and I'm not sure what all is going on, but it is what it is. That's part of racing. It's a real shame though, because if not that Justin didn't do what he should have, but if he would have checked up or the wreck just happened differently, any of the other two or four of us could have gotten the lead. And I'm pretty sure if I was first or second, I could have won that race with my tires. And it is what it is.
Yeah, I ended up getting from like 13th or 12th to 10th at the end, but it's just like you said, it was just a parking lot. I couldn't make any runs anywhere. But anyways, yeah, it's gonna shake things up a little bit. It'll make things exciting for anybody watching. But we'll go on to next week and see what we can do. We'll move on to NEP now. First, the Grand National Series.
Shift.
Yes, the NEP Shift Grand National Series. We were at Myrtle Beach this week, and you actually made your debut with us, which was pretty exciting. You started seventh, a pretty decent qualifying run for you. Um, I started fifth, right in front of you. Um,
I
and
was surprised they announced it was my first race. I was fully intent on just kind of like not making any big scenes or whatever. Like I was just gonna race.
yeah, so we run through that, and I end up pitting like about halfway through. And it always seems like I get the tire strategy wrong every time. Um, and so I pit with a couple other guys. A bunch of other people stay out. We're in traffic. And then just seemed to be wreck after wreck. We ended up with 7 cautions in an 80 lap race, 35 caution laps. And then at the very end, I'm trying to be aggressive getting through the field, and people are wrecking left and right, and Ryan Libby ends up wrecking dang near half the field to get up to fifth because he had been wrecked earlier. It was just, I don't know, I was getting to the point where I'm not really having fun in that league anymore. Just, the standards of racing, especially if you get beyond like the top 5, it just, nobody seems to really care. Um, I did cause a little incident at the end. I just barely got into a guy in front of me and spun him, and he hates me for it, but whatever. Um, but yeah, you ended up 12th, and I ended up 17th because yeah, it was in a big wreck at the end. How was your first experience as a rookie?
I was okay. Most of the guys in there are nice to talk to and fun to be around. I'm not sure if it's because it's for fun or they race real race cars and they want to be aggressive in those, but they can't because they cost money. So when it comes to driving the fake stuff, they're just gonna go all out and wreck the field or something. I'm not sure how it works. I don't know what they're doing, but it was a good time. I look forward to more races in it.
Yeah, John Peters ends up getting the win in that again, and I think he actually took over the points lead. Ryan Libby was the points leader for I think the whole season up until now. So pretty interesting with just a few races to go. I'm down to fourth in points. I'm pretty much out of it. I've had a couple pretty bad weeks, so maybe I can retake third place, but wouldn't be anything more than that. Um, so we move on to the NEP Super Truck Series. That was at iRacing Super Speedway, which, Austin, have you ever run a race there? Because I have not. That was my first.
No, I bought the track right before joining the session.
Yeah, so I had bought the track, but I didn't actually race there until then. So it was a wild trip going to a place like that with the banking, how it is, and everything. So
Such a long track too. Like the straightaways, you feel like you're going really, really slow because it's such a long track.
yeah, and yeah, in those trucks you're going over 200. It's insane.
Oh, dude, like in the 220s or something. Like you would think it was in like kilometers per hour. Like no, we in freedom units, and it's still that high.
Oh, and I just found that I got the fastest lap in that race. That's cool. On lap 34.
I assume that was when you were pushing to get up to the front.
Well, it was lap 34 out of 47, so yeah, I think so, because
You were
we had
making
extra
moves at
laps.
that point. Yeah, you were making moves.
But yeah, so we decided there was a big group of us decided to kind of hang back for the majority of the race, and really seemed to work. And then I did get caught up into one wreck as soon as I started to move up. Um, I can't. I think I ended up taking my fast repair.
Yes.
Yeah, and but then we stormed through the field there at the end. Wasn't that many cars left or trucks
There
left that
wasn't a
didn't
whole
have
lot of
damage.
storming. It was like you pitted and so did Brett and everyone else. I didn't pit. Everyone else just had to pit, and we got lucky with the wrecks, so we were just up front. Like
You know,
there wasn't
only
a whole lot of racing up there.
no, only like 11 trucks finished on only lap two. So like, if we fell back, I mean, it was pretty easy to get back up there. Yeah, and at the end, I didn't start with one of my teammates directly by me. I know Jason Ricker was back there a little ways. We couldn't really get hooked up, so some of the guys ran away with it up front. Brent Roy with Wyatt Alexander, who is my teammate, they ran away with it. And then it was me trying to tail behind them, and then Charles Lewandowski, and everybody else kind of had problems at the end or wasn't too much in contention, a little bit further back. Yeah, I had a big run taking the white flag, and Scott McDonald tried to block me. I wasn't having it. He was the guy that I wrecked at Myrtle Beach, so I moved him out of the way, and he ended up getting wrecked. I think he ended up ninth. But yeah, I ended up third, and I was third, and then Charles got by me, and I tried to get another run on him, but didn't quite work out. So I ended up fourth. Brent Roy, good for him. He's your teammate, right, Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah, he ended up winning. My teammate Wyatt was second, so our team was second, fourth, and then Jason Ricker was seventh. So another great points day for four wide weaponry.
That was a good race. It was a good time just hanging out with all you guys.
Got some dogs skirting. I like it.
Yeah, they're dumber than shit.
But yeah, I mean, you had actually dropped back quite a bit uh, for strategy. I know you were trying to pick up Brent at one time, and it's kind of funny that he ends up winning the race. He was way behind the pack, and you guys picked him up. But
Well, Scott McDonald, your best friend, was racing with him for like 20th place, and that's why they lost the draft because they were side by side playing grab ass while Scott was playing grab ass. Brent was doing his best. But yes, we went back and picked him up, and I didn't pit the last caution, the last couple cautions. I stayed out because I thought I had enough fuel, but iRacing's calculation is trash when he had to do caution laps, so I ran out on the white flag lap.
yeah, so yeah, you ended up like one of the first trucks a lap down. Like I think it was like 11th or 10th or something like that. Um, and then real quick though, the Podium 500 was also this week. weekend, I should say. It's actually the final big race is today. I ran my heat race. I was in heat number 7 out of 8, and I noticed something in those heats. Like there's 20 lap heats at Daytona. You have to finish the top 8, but if you finish ninth to 18th, you at least get to go to your last chance race. And I ended up starting 30th, and just got caught in wreck after wreck after wreck. And like I noticed, like the first couple heats of the day weren't too bad for cautions, but as the day went on, it was just worse and worse. And the final heat actually ended up being worse than mine, but mine was pretty bad. So I ended up finishing 21st. I almost got to that 18th place. I actually got wrecked again on the last lap, and I limped to the finish line, but just didn't have enough speed to grab a couple spots at the end. Really a shame. Um, I've at least made it to the duels every season or every year. I've done it. Can't say that this year, but I'll be back at it again next year. There's just so many cars that are trying to get into such a small field. It's pretty tough. It's kind of like a lottery, really. But anyways, I think we brought our guest in for this week. Um, my longtime best friend Brody Vaclavik's with us today. How are you doing, Brody?
What's up, fellas?
Doing great. I think Austin might be dealing with dog problems, so it might be
No,
just.
no, I didn't know. Hey, sub Brody.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if the mic was gonna work or not, so because the Xbox is still on, so
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Yeah,
good,
yeah, good
good to
quality.
go.
Um, so anyways, yeah. So a lot of our viewers will have no clue who you are, but we obviously know.
Perfect.
Um, so you and I are longtime best friends since about kindergarten, which that'd be over 20 years now, and you've always been interested in cars and really anything with an engine on it. You're more well versed in that stuff than I am because you're more into you're into cars and trucks and bikes. Um, I guess we'll touch first. You just bought. Well, actually, let's go back a little bit. You got a Subaru WRX, and I wanted to ask you like what led you to being interested in a car like that, and what led you to make purchase one.
Well, it all started with having a second car as a Mustang in the winter to a Power Stroke, and let's just say when the old diesel breaks down in the winter, you really don't have a ride to work because you got a Mustang with two-wheel drive in the garage, and yeah, pretty much from there I was like, well, I don't really want a secondary car that's not going to be able to be a backup when stuff goes wrong in the winter. So I went ahead and got that because all-wheel drive they rock in the winter, and yeah, I mean they're pretty easy to work on too. So and relatively cheap.
See, I think that's kind of a misconception. There's kind of a misconception with Subarus in well, really in foreign cars in a way. I think a lot of people over here might think that oh, just because it's foreign, it's probably expensive to work on. But I think that's not always true with everything. But now, granted, there are some cars that's definitely true,
Yeah,
but not
that's
with
like a
everything.
German car. You're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, relatively um, cheap, especially when it comes to like you can get almost anything on Rock Auto nowadays shipped to your house within the week or whatever, or Amazon Prime, for example. It just, I mean, you can get shit the next day. So, I mean, when it comes to like Japanese cars specifically, they're way cheaper than like German cars, like you say.
So you've taken this car. You've had this car for what was it, couple years now, right?
Yeah, close to it.
So it's when you got it, it had well, didn't it had been lowered, right?
Yeah, so it was slammed pretty low, and I when I got it, I was like, I hate the way it frickin' rides on well, it was just on cheap lowering springs. So I was like, you know what? Let's kind of go towards our roots and, you know, why not make it kind of rally set up? Not really, because I don't have that kind of money. but I decided to lift it, put it on Forester suspension. Ride height's great. You can clear a lot of stuff, and I mean it's cheap. I got the whole set from a guy that wanted to do it to his STI, not realizing that the knuckles were different, so he couldn't mount it without doing fabrication. So I ended up picking up the whole set for like 120 bucks for brand new struts, and I was like, easy.
Holy
So
cow.
yeah, and them cars are like Legos too, so you can pick and pull off of just about anything and make it work.
So since you got that, those lower, since you got it raised up, um, you actually decided to take it out to Silver Lake this year, which Austin may not really know what Silver Lake is, but it's on this west side of Michigan. It's a pretty legendary dune spot for off-roading. You can take your car out and basically drive it on a beach, really. But there's hills and valleys and all kinds of different terrain. There's like pools of water and stuff you can drive through, and it was pretty cool seeing your car out there.
Yeah, people are very surprised with how well it does out there. I mean, unless you put in a lot of money and you know modifications into a lot of trucks and Jeeps, even you're not gonna match what the Subaru can actually do. It's pretty sad for. I mean, the bang for the buck there is great for off roading. If you feel like beating on your car, most people will hate that a WRX is getting beat on. Because there's too many people that just street them only, which they are great cars for that. But I mean, I don't know. It's it's a lot more fun when you can take it out on the sand dunes and show up, you know, built ass Jeeps. I mean, for the most part, if they're not running like V8s and shit, I got them all day.
Ah, but you
It's,
bought it. It's yours. You want to beat the piss out of it? Beat the piss out of it.
oh
I am
yeah,
familiar with that area though. I've never been there. I know a lot of my friends have gone there. Um, but yeah,
Well, I think the thing is too, like it was a pretty decent car, but it had its flaws, and it's not like showroom perfect. I guess I'd have a
right.
problem if it was like really really nice. Granted, it's really solid, but it had its flaws. It's got a decent amount of miles on it. I don't have a
Oh
problem with
yeah.
what you're doing with it.
I mean, I think it's got over 215K on it right now. I bought it with like 180,000 on it, but it was still running strong. Everyone like wants to say, "Oh yeah, head gaskets, this and that." Well, I mean, it's not really a thing when it comes to the turbo models. They're built better from the factory, and I mean, if you're not like really beating on them all the time, they last a long time. Especially, I mean, maintenance. Let's be honest, most kids that buy these cars don't maintain them.
and
But
they're also beating the piss out of them. Yeah, I mean, it's revving at all hours of the day, and they're
oh
just
yeah,
getting on their shit off the red lights and stuff.
Well, that's the
yeah,
thing.
daily driving nicely helps it a lot.
Yeah, I was about to say, like when Brody's driving on in normal circumstances, he's not really rodding it that hard. But you actually recently added a new car to the family, another Japanese model,
Yeah.
a Mazda
Oh yeah.
MX-5, first generation, right? Um,
Yep. First year.
yeah. So that's what 90.
Yeah.
So I've actually not heard this story in its entirety yet. So this was a perfect time to bring it up. This was just like a few weeks ago. It's a kind of a project car that you were planning on attacking. So
Yep.
take us through that journey. What was that like getting that Mazda?
All right. I'll start from the beginning on this. So I was kind of sitting around in a tree stand bored during hunting season and kind of like looking towards my next project. And uh, I remember, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, we went to that car show. I brought the old Dodge out there, and you had your Monte Carlo there. And I remember this car pulling up behind us, like in the entrance, and I remember just hearing that cam lope. And I turned around and I thought it was the car behind the Miata, And then I saw the Miata take off, and I realized that's not a normal Miata anymore.
What's up, Zach?
And well, we were walking around, I ended up seeing the car. A local guy that owns a ski shop owns the car, and I recognized him right away. And I looked in the engine bay, and there's a 5.0 from a Ford, 90s Ford sitting in there. I'm like, holy crap! I'm like, no wonder. And that was a little bit of inspiration. And then moving forward, I was for the last, I'd say, few months, I've been kind of addicted. Everyone gets the car addiction. I mean, when you're looking for something you really want, and I've been looking. You can't really find one in Michigan. So I'm like, well, I'm willing to drive because I'm trying to find something rust free. I mean, you can find them in Michigan. And they
There
want
you go,
6K
Kurt.
plus for a car
Not the
that's got
first time you've said
200,000
that.
miles, and yeah, just not gonna do. Especially on a car 5 years ago, you could get it for $1,000 in good condition. So I was looking around, found one in Chicago, and there was another one I was talking with someone about in Ohio, and I was kind of going back and forth with them, and then the guy in Chicago seemed like he was, ready for me to come take a look at it. So I'm like, all right, so what's a good time for you? And then he's like, Saturday around like 3 o'clock or so when I get out of work. And I'm like, cool, I'll take off from here at noon and I'll head down there. So I'm sitting around, and I get up super early for no reason. And I get a text message at like 8. Yeah, sorry, I can't do it. I got someone else doing a better deal. Mind you, this car is still on marketplace right now. He's still trying to sell it. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I messaged the lady that had the one for sale in Ohio. I'm like, hey, I'm on my way. I got cash right now. I remember you saying that you were going to be available this weekend. So I start trucking down there. Well, I got talked out of picking up a trailer local by my roommate because he's like, oh, why would you want to, haul a empty trailer all the way down there with you? Well, come to find out, if you want to try and get a U-Haul and go one way, it'll cost you 3 times as much. So I'm in Detroit calling U-Hauls, not just now realizing I'm gonna get screwed. And they're like, all right, yeah, there's one over here. It's like 30 minutes north of the car. I'm like, sweet. I'm like, worst case, I'll just run down, take a look at the car, depending on if I really want it or not. Then I can decide whether or not I want to pick up this trailer. So I get to the location. I'm like, screw it. I might as well just pick it up. Um, it's at like this rundown used car dealership, and he's got a couple U-Hauls sitting around. There's no car hauler there, and I'm like, what the hell? So I go and talk to the guy, and he's like, oh, I don't even really deal with the U-Haul. I'm the one that owns the dealership. He's like, I got another guy that does all the U-Haul stuff, and we tell him not to rent anything on the weekends. And I'm like, well, it says it's here, and you can only go through corporate lately, I guess. So you're calling to a general location, I guess, probably their headquarters or whatever, and they're telling you where the equipment is. And I'm like, yeah, it's not here. They're like, well, it says it's here. I'm like, you're gonna have to find one for me because it's kind of last second now. And so they're like, oh, there's one up in what was it, Columbus, nice area. Um, so I head down. I look at the car. All right, car's worth getting. Um, so then I have to run another hour back north, go grab a trailer, run back down, get the car. I'm sitting there, yeah, basically just trying to, talk out the deal because it was kind of like not really set in stone before. Um, and they're like, her kid's just a spoiled little brat, you know, and he's the one that had the car, but I'm dealing with the mom, but for the kid, I don't know. It was kind of a crapshoot. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, so we got to load this thing up because I can't freaking drive it right now because just so happened that it magically, the clutch just went out on it out of nowhere. And I'm like, all right, so I can't even test drive it. I, I guess I forgot that part. Can't even test drive it. I'm like, you know what, whatever. These cars are so easy to work on. I was going to do it in a driveway. I'm like, I don't want to make a mess. Screw it. So, because the slave cylinder was leaking like crazy. So clutch actuation wasn't working. either way, I'm like, whatever. More than likely, the 5-speed's going to be fine. The engine runs great. It's just everything's kind of dirty. You just got to clean it up. Not too worried about that stuff. The main thing was rust, and the car is stupid clean of rust. So I have them help me load it up on the trailer. Trying to beat the snowstorm on the way back, and I mean, I got home at 2 in the morning after waking up at like 6 a.m. to go look at a car in Chicago. So that's how that went.
So yeah, the car you ended up buying was the one in Ohio, right?
Yeah, like Southern Ohio.
But then you drove over to Detroit first. You said, right?
Well, yeah, I was going past Detroit
That's
en
just kind of
route.
how you get there, the way all the freeways are lined up,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to Southern Ohio, which fucking trek. Like Ohio itself is like 5 or 6 hours long in the up north direction. Like holy,
Yeah,
Like, well, I wanted to give the viewers just a kind of a view of
yeah, I was
like
coming
where he
from
was coming
West
from.
Michigan.
Yeah, so coming from Muskegon, Michigan, what the far west coast of Michigan, basically in the middle of the Lower Peninsula, basically
so
all the way
as for
across
you
the
in
state.
Michigan, hold up your right hand, okay?
Yeah.
And then on the left side of your right hand, but towards the lower part of your hand, is about where these guys live. And then you go to the right side of your hand, right by kind of where your thumb is, that's Detroit. That's where I live. And then you go straight down from there to Ohio, which I don't know, hold up a ball of like aluminum foil or something because it's all jaggedy, kind of squared
Because
off, and then go straight down.
So did I suppose the yeah? So you probably would have taken about the same way to get back then.
yeah, I same route there and back.
So I know originally, so you got the car. I know originally you were going to go with a 5.0 swap in it,
Oh,
but I know recently you've kind of changed your mind on that.
yeah. So I mean, the more research I've done, I kind of am realizing the better route to go. And every, I mean, there's haters and there's people that swear by them. So yeah, I'm gonna go LS on it. So I mean, I like to think I used to be a Ford guy, but I mean anymore, really kind of just into Japanese cars due to reliability and value. They hold their value like crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the LS swap. It's not really gonna cost any more, and I can make more power. And it's not all about power. That's why I was kind of leaning towards the 5.0 before. But I mean, really, the market for aftermarket parts and ease of getting stuff for the LSs is just so much easier now.
Well, you can
I was
always
gonna
have
say,
you can always have a modest LS build too. And I mean, there's nothing saying you have to build
Oh
the
no,
crap
I
out of
mean,
it.
yeah, stock will be plenty for that car.
no, I mean it's so light it doesn't even matter. And like you said earlier, it's kind of like the Subarus. Those things are kind of like Legos with the amount of aftermarket parts you can get and the ability that you have to work on them and stuff.
Right.
So moving on then. So we kind of already talked about this before, but you went with Kenny and Justin to MIS in 2019.
Correct. What a trip.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start this. So I wanted to. I kind of made a pledge to myself. I wanted to go to a different racetrack like every year, and 2019 was the first year. So the easiest place to go to first would be to MIS, Michigan International Speedway, for the Cup race. So we went to it was the August race, I believe, and um, I had tried booking hotels. We kind of got together about it. It was myself, Brody, Justin, who we had in our second episode, our first guest, and our buddy Caleb, who's quite a card. I should probably try to get him on here.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and but so we got together about hotels and stuff. I wanted to book things early, and we kind of didn't really come up with anything. And then we got to about 6 months before, and I was thinking, we can still book something. Well, it turns out like everything else was booked, except for stuff that's stupid expensive, or there was one place that was really cheap. I can't remember if it was was it like a Super 8 or something?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
So we booked that place. It was like $63 a night for 2 double rooms. It was like dirt cheap. And we only had to be there one night. We were gonna go there, go straight to the track for the truck race. After the truck race, check into our rooms, sleep that night, and then come back out for the cup race, and then leave. So we hop into Justin's Subaru. He's got a '05 Subaru Legacy GT wagon, and we all piled into that and drove halfway across the state. And I'll leave it to Brody for the next part.
Oh, I mean, if you want to listen to Ba What to Ba, jump in the car with us. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so I mean, we got that fancy hotel room, where we had crayon on the walls, letting us know for the outlets, which goes to which. For example, they had like the lights on one of them, and then I can't remember what the other one was. Um, we actually left that place better condition than we got there because, for example, like I fixed a couple lights in there, and the shower head was loose. So I mean, we got to have a decent room, so we might as well try and help them fix it up a little bit because they didn't charge us that much. you know, um, yeah. What? Oh yeah. So I mean, first couple minutes we were sitting up in there. I mean, we had just checked in, I think, and we're up in our room, and I think Justin's in there with us when this happened, and
Yes.
yeah, I'm sitting on the bed, and I think me, Kenny, and Justin. I think Caleb was taking a nap, and Justin just bolts out of the room, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And look outside, and there's a car pulling away from Justin's car, like a rental van from wherever, Hertz or whatever. Um, and I'm like, oh no, he just hit Justin's car, and then I think right at that point you took off, correct?
Yep. So I
Like
went
you
down
ran
there,
down
and
there.
yeah, I was just trying to ease the situation. And yeah, the guy. I went down there, and the guy just like, cause the parking lot was pretty narrow, but there was parking spots on both sides of it. But there's
Hmm.
plenty of room to back out of your spot, and you just have to back out 90 degrees and then go. Well, this dude just basically backed straight up across the parking lot and backed into the rear of Justin's car. And we're like, what the hell, man? And I'm just sitting there, like, letting him talk, whatever. And he's like, yeah, my van at home has a backup camera, and this rental doesn't. And I'm just not used to it. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
What an
Like,
embarrassment.
like, you should just use an excuse. You should just say, I screwed up. That's all you need to say.
Right.
So at least he didn't leave. I'm pretty sure his wife was trying to get him to leave. um,
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. She was like, I could, I couldn't remember if I could hear them or they were like making like gestures, but I remember she was like trying to get him to roll out of there, and I'm like, what the. So I think that was like right when you were running down there too. And then I'm sitting up in the room taking pictures. Got to have evidence, of course. So taking pictures of you guys down there talking to them, putting little speech bubbles on there, just for a little bit of reference if we have to bring this into court.
making memes.
Yeah, basically making memes of the situation, which looking back on it, it's funny. It was kind of fucked up at the time, but yeah, I mean, yeah, this is crazy.
One thing that I forgot to tell back when Justin was on here is I went over to like I went over to your or our room, and I was in the hallway, and there was like a one of the ladies that works there. It was kind of like these people were kind of like Indian, not like Native American, but like actually Indian,
Mhm.
and they had accents and stuff, and she was in the hallway. Well, when I like, it was either I was just outside the room, and I was like leaving the room or something, and of course we like to say skirt all the time, really loud, and Brody's the
Yeah,
best at it. So he
I'm
goes,
quite the quiet person.
he, he goes skirt really loud, and the lady's like right next to me, and she goes, "Do you have a dog?" I'm like, no, I have a skirt.
Yeah, I'm the dog.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that was funnier at the time. Oh, and then I think with
Yeah.
Justin we talked about in Caleb and Justin's room, which I paid for the same type of rooms, but their room was completely different. Um, they had a painting hanging above their bed, and
Yeah,
Caleb was
that
trying
was
to take a
gold.
nap. He was like dead tired, and the painting, this huge painting, fell right on top of his head. But yeah, it was a great time. We went and watched the races. I know. Uh,
The racing was well worth it. That was a great experience, actually.
yeah, like
I
when we
would
went.
recommend that track.
Yeah, when we went to the track, there was a lot of stuff going on. There was like a bunch of events and stuff. There was like these lumberjack guys that were doing like some shows and stuff, and there it was funny because there was a guy, this Canadian guy named Kevin, and every time he'd do something, we were
Yeah.
all us four were like, "Yeah, Kevin!" and he'd look at us and like give us a thumbs up. It was just a fun experience. It was really hot, but it was fun, and I wanted to do that again last year with I wanted to go to Eldora, but that didn't happen with COVID, so kind of taking a hiatus on that for now and see what we do in the next year or two. But
Yep.
In other
Maybe
words,
we'll be
yeah,
able to do
Kevin.
our
definitely,
yeah, Kevin. Maybe we'll be able to start our annual thing again after a couple years.
yeah. At least
Unfortunately.
2020 or 2019 as well. We went to Berlin. 2020, the only track I went to was our local track. I think it was Thunderbird. I went to with Justin. Um, but I know you haven't. You're not as quite a hardcore racing fan as like Austin and I, but you do watch it. And I
Hmm.
know you had quite an experience overseas in the military with sort of watching a race.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
saw
I've
like
watched.
1/32 of an F1 race, didn't you?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I've watched quite a few races, kind of all over the place. I like watching in person a lot more than on TV. It's kind of just, I don't know, just to me, it's more entertaining. I mean, I will watch like a lot of the bigger races, like on NASCAR and stuff on TV, but um, yeah. So the F1 race, so basically, me and a couple buddies bought tickets to go to this F1 race. It was in Bahrain, and so I'm just getting off work. So I run out, jump in the car with the guys. We run down to the track. Well, you have to park like a ways off the track. There's a ton of people there, so they don't have enough parking right there for everyone. So we're parking in this sand lot, and we get a bus ride in or whatever, and then um, I just like get settled down in our seat, and I'm getting bombarded with phone calls like, what the hell is going on? So I finally answer. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, you got the keys for the van for the ship, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? So I end up like at this point, you can't just say no. I mean, it's the military. Let's be honest.
Yeah, they'll shoot
So
you.
yeah, yeah, right.
They won't, but
Um, so I run all, and I'm telling these guys, I'm like, the keys are in my coveralls. They're hanging up, and they're like, nope, they're not there. I'm like, okay. So I run all the way back. There they are in my coveralls, hanging up by my rack, and I uh, give them the keys. I run back out to the track. Finally get there, so I got to watch the first and the last lap of the F1 race. Best experience of racing ever. I never had more fun not being at a race.
Now this is at the
um,
Bahrain Grand Prix, right? Is that?
correct.
Yeah. You did see some racing though, right?
Yeah. So I got to see the qualifiers and stuff, which was pretty awesome. I mean, seeing couple. I think they're running mainly like Porsches in the GT3. I think. But my favorite one, obviously, was the Subaru. Every time, because where we were sitting right at the finish line. Well, turn one is like a really sharp turn, so they come past the finish line, and turn one's like right there, and they let off the throttle right there, and you get that nice, you know, backfire noise right as soon as they pass you. I mean, it's a good experience if you get to actually experience it. So, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot I got to watch, but I mean, I still had fun. And they have go kart racing there too, which is like gets very competitive because a lot of the guys will go out to brunch on I think it's on Saturdays. It's been a while since I've been there, but we'll go out to brunch on Saturdays. Have a few beverages, and then go out racing go karts. Very safe with no seatbelts or roll cages or anything like that. And then yeah, I mean it's sitting right there, right next to the Grand Prix circuit too. So it's pretty cool. You're like right there at the big track, but they have the go kart racing right there too, which is a pretty good track as well for its size.
So one thing I want to touch base on too is Kenny's injuries. Apparently, Kenny used to get hurt a lot. What are we talking about here?
Well, I've always had weird injuries. Like, not very many, but when they've happened to me, they've just been like odd. Odd situations, or the injury itself is just like something not many people have to deal with.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, we used to. I mean, we must have been what, like 10 or so when this one happened. Or no, we were in middle school actually. Now that I think about it,
It
or
depends on which one. The
sixth grade, I think, is when you dislocated your finger. It must have been right around there, fifth or sixth grade.
Yeah, something like that. It was about the same time for
Yeah.
the other injury, really, within a few years.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, we used to ride our bikes to each other's houses and stuff in the snow or ice or whatever, hang out all the time. We lived, I mean, what, probably about a mile apart, I'd say.
Yeah, about a mile. We'd always meet. There was a road about halfway between our houses. We'd always meet there, and then ride our bikes the rest of the way to my house. I
Yeah.
would feel bad if Brody had to ride all the way by himself in the winter on his bike. So I would brave the cold with him because it's always funny because my parents and his parents would just be like, I'd be like, hey, can Brody come over? And my dad would be like, I don't know how he's getting here because I'm not picking him up.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like our parents are always like that. I mean, it's good for you though. I mean, find your own transportation, then you're not always relying on someone else. But yeah, so we do that, and so this one in specific, we were wrestling, and I think what happened, you picked me up and like slammed me down on your bed or some shit like that, and I think it was like the rebound of me bouncing and coming back down. I landed right on your finger just so, and I remember you saying like, "Oh, I broke my finger" or something like that. I'm like, "Oh, whatever," because it's always like that. You're always like, "Ah, no, nothing happened. Shut up." And then I look, and your finger is going like, I'd say what, 50 to 60 degrees in the wrong direction
Yeah, basically
to the
like
side. Oh my god.
my up to like your middle knuckle or whatever, my finger was normal, but from my middle knuckle to the edge of my finger, it was like, yeah, just completely bent back. And
Oh, it's so bad.
yeah, that was like the time when like I used to play like WWE games and stuff, so I'd like try to practice like moves and stuff like that, just doing stupid kids stuff. And so I had to. So that was on my birthday actually too. That was
Was
on
it?
my
I
Yeah,
couldn't.
that was on my birthday. We weren't having like a party that day or anything, but that was on my birthday. And so yeah, I think I don't know if you went home or something, and I went to the ER, and
Oh, I think I was told to go home.
and so I went to ER and sat on a bed, and I'm sitting there, and of course it's cold out. I can only wear half my jacket because I can't fit the jacket around my other arm because my finger's in the way. And so I'm sitting there, and I'll tell you what, the worst pain of that whole thing was not even that injury. It was the numbing shot that they gave me. They gave me
Ugh.
two numbing shots, like in kind of like where my palm meets my finger. That was
Mm.
the worst pain I've ever felt. Um, I don't know why. I mean, normally shots are not a big deal for me, but that just hurt like a mother. And then they popped it back into place, which was disgusting. And then I had to wear a splint for a while. Um, but yeah, that finger's kind of it's okay, but I can just tell it's just not the same as the rest of the fingers.
Yeah, if I
Different,
remember
man.
right, your knuckles like blown up right there still, right? Like from cartilage.
Um, maybe just a little, not really.
Oh, okay.
It
I
was
thought it
for a
was a little
long
bit
time
bigger.
though. It was like very noticeable for a long time. But then there's the other injury, which the injury itself is just kind of weird.
Yeah. Are you talking about the when we were messing with your stupid evil cat?
Yes.
Yeah, good old Baka, as black evil cat. So yeah, we used to. What was it? We had this like a monkey or a lemur or something like that. They would scream if you push the button on it.
Yeah, we had this like pink stuffed monkey that my mom got from her work.
Yeah, so
Um,
we'd always like dangle it in front of the cat, and like she'd bat at it and like hiss and get all pissed off. And, yeah, I think what was it? You were running into your parents' room, and they had like the cat was sitting up on the waterbed. Perfect area for a cat. Um, and you're running in there, and you had the monkey in your hand or whatever, and on into their room they had like a little ledge that went up just another probably 6 inches or something like that, and your foot caught and just bashed your face right on the edge of the bed. Yeah, did you hit like your eyeball? I think that's what it was, wasn't it?
yeah, so I don't know why the injury focused on my eye because my whole face, at least it felt like, my whole face planted into the bed frame. My parents got like this solid wood bed frame, and I ran towards the bed, and I tripped over the step, and it just sent my face right at the bed frame. So I planted into that. Remained conscious, I will add, and
Yeah, I'm surprised to be honest because you were booking it.
and um, but yeah, so my face got all or my eye got all swelled up and stuff, and what ended up happening is I popped blood vessels in my eye, and so like the whole like one side of my eye and the corner of it was all bloody for I don't even know how long, for like maybe a week.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, that
weird
was
weird stuff
nasty.
like that. I don't think Brody's ever gotten majorly hurt with us hanging together. It's always been me.
Yeah, I don't think any time with us hanging together. No.
You ever had any weird
Um,
injuries,
did
Austin?
No, not really. I don't know if I'm not stupid enough or what.
We were pretty dumb at that age.
I mean,
Bubble Boy?
like like skinned my knee a couple times, like got my arm once, but nothing too bad. I mean, I guess when I was like 2, I like fell down the stairs and fucking hit my head on the wall, and I had to go to the hospital.
I had one.
Solid.
I went and toured well, I was with Cub Scouts at the time. Little, I was like 7, and we were staying the night on the USS Silversides, which is a submarine that's stationed.
Oh, dude, I've been there.
Oh, you've been to the Silversides? It's not far from
Many
us.
times, many times.
That's right in our hometown, man.
Yeah, it's not. Um, yeah, that's not far away from us at all. So I stayed the night on there, and there was a Coast Guard ship that was like kind of nearby, and we were gonna.
Yeah, the cutter.
Yeah, so we were touring it that night, and little me being stupid, there's these like steps that go from one level of the ship to another. These wooden steps inside, and they're not like regular steps. They're really short and they're really steep, and they don't have carpeting around them or anything. So I go running up the steps and I trip, and I bash like the bridge of my nose on one of the steps. Blood everywhere, and I apparently I didn't break my nose though somehow because I mean it felt okay I guess, but um, that was another weird one. My mom's in the
Yeah,
chat right now. She says, "Remember, Dad made Brody pick up dog poop after that finger incident."
is that? I don't even remember that,
I
but
do
I
make that.
probably did.
Yeah, I did too. It was he was like, yeah, because it was winter time, and he was like, next spring you guys are gonna pick up all the dog poop in the yard as your punishment. I do
Yeah,
remember that.
good times.
Um,
Uh, yeah, you got to be careful around ships too. I mean, there's a lot of sharp and angled things that you can smash your head on and or trip on or whatever. Yeah, they're
yeah, and they're
dangerous, especially coming out of like hatches and stuff. You can lose a finger.
yeah, and they're narrow, very claustrophobic. You ever get
Oh
any?
yeah.
You ever get any injuries while you were on your ships in the Navy?
Not not necessarily anything too bad. I mean, I got a nice hernia when we were in the dry docks. I think I was lifting something that was too heavy for me or something like that. And then, I mean, every once in a while, like, once a week or so, you bash your head on the knife edge going through a doorway. So that's always nice because it's nice, real solid steel.
Yeah, it
So,
doesn't exactly give.
no, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I wasn't too bad, but yeah.
I know it might be hard for me to remember, but I have listed on here camping stories because we there's a campground that's by my parents' house. It's only like 5 minutes away. So we would go camping once a year. My mom would normally go out there because her sister's out there, so we would kind of all get together when we were out there every summer and whatever. And I brought Brody as my friend to bring along with us multiple years. And there's a couple things I remember. I remember we used to always there was like some trails behind the campground that we would always ride our bikes on and basically destroy our bikes because of hitting jumps and all this jazz. And I remember you had this old like girl's bike that you had painted black.
Yeah,
Do you remember that
yeah.
bike?
Oh yeah, I called it Darth Vader. Painted it flat black. That thing was a trooper. It was like a mini mountain bike or something like that. And at the time, I mean, I was really short. Um, so I remember I fit it fine. I would just send that thing everywhere and crash often.
Yeah, you were not afraid to hit the deck. I always had
No.
problems with my chain falling off. My chain was just never. It just if I would push the limit too far, it would just want to come off. It was like the only problem I'd have. But then you'd always have that. Whenever it would come off, it'd be when you're pedaling your hardest, and then you'd like slip forward and you'd bash your knee on the front of the bike. The worst pain ever.
Yeah, I mean, we used to ride our bikes from our houses out there because we didn't want to load them in the car. So we'd just meet your mom there on the first trip or whatever.
Yep.
Because I mean, it was only a few miles away from home.
Yep. We'd always ride out there, and remember there was that one guy. There was that one year. There was a guy named like Cy, I think his name was, who came out and was doing all these crazy
Yeah,
tricks and stuff. Everybody was following him
yeah, I
around.
remember that. Yeah, he had like a huge posse of 10-year-olds because he was in like his 20s doing like sweet BMX tricks, flipping off the trees and stuff.
Yeah, he had like a whole parade of little kids following him. Because that was mostly the clientele at this campground. We eventually kind of grew out of it, but another story I think of too is I remember we brought Tyler. I brought you and Tyler, another one of our buddies, with us one year, and I remember you guys were setting off fireworks inside a bathroom there, which was kind of interesting.
I
It was
don't
like
remember that.
it was like bottle rockets, I think. Not really fireworks.
That's
Yeah, there's like an outbuilding that's like kind of in the middle of like where their pavilions and stuff were. And I think you guys were like launching them like in or near.
typical degents.
Yes. And then there like we're because there was a strict no fireworks rule and all this and like it was like at night we went down to the beach because it's right on Lake Michigan
Yeah,
and like you were launching them off
yeah, I
and then all of a
remember
sudden
doing
we
it
saw
at the
like a
beach.
spotlight move like right towards us.
Yeah, and then book it.
Yep, and then book it. Oh, I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Dang kids.
Yeah. Uh, what what else did we do there? I mean, like I mean we play like washers or whatever, or Polish horseshoes. I think some people call it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, all kinds of good stuff. Either way.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. We kind of grew out of it because I think the clientele at that campground stays the same age, and we don't. So, yeah, so we, it's really fun for kids that are like 16 and younger.
Yeah, those bike trails used to be like a hot item out there, and I think they kind of closed a lot of that off because too many people get hurt, and they probably try to sue them.
Yeah, like kids can't have fun anymore. So,
Yeah,
cause
and they used to have like really nice trails too.
yeah, yeah, there was like I remember even like the last few years we went, like the park rangers would start to like take leaves and stuff and block them off, and we'd unblock them and use them again. It was just yeah. And then we had one spot where we would where people would build a ramp and they'd knock it down and we'd have to rebuild it back up. Yeah, you probably can't even go back there anymore. I
That
haven't been
sounds like
back
a
there.
lot of hoodlum shit, to be honest.
Oh, it was no, it was in good fun.
No, I know. We used to build ramps too.
Everybody's got to go off a ramp and crash in their childhood. A couple things we like to ask all of our guests. Um, I know you're into watching races in person. Is there any particular racing discipline or racing venue that you'd like to go to you haven't been to yet?
Oh, yeah, I haven't even thought that one out really. I mean, pretty much I just want to do our annual thing whenever we can get back to doing that. I love watching dirt track pretty much anywhere. It's, it's kind of the same, but you get to see different people or wherever you're at because like for one example, I was down in Mississippi going to school once and I was driving over to Louisiana. They had a really nice track there, which dirt track is completely different down south. They're riding on clay. So that was pretty cool to watch. One of the times I was driving out there, it got rained out. Like I was just getting there, and then it downpoured. I'm like, oh, I just drove like an hour and a half for nothing. So I mean, yeah, I like watching dirt track or even asphalt. I mean, that's pretty much good everywhere. Like the local one we have, I forget the name of the track.
Yeah, we went to Berlin in
Yep, Berlin.
2019. Yep.
Yeah, but pretty much just, I mean, pretty much anything in person. I used to go to motocross events here and there every once in a while, and when I was younger, anyway, my dad would bring me like that. But haven't been to one of those in a long time. I'd like to go to one of those again. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah,
I
my
wouldn't say
goal
there's
is
one in particular I'm looking for.
what's that?
I said there wouldn't be one in particular I'd be looking to go to though. I mean, pretty much just whenever the opportunity arises.
Yeah, eventually I'd like to branch out to different parts of the country. Heck, even out of the country eventually, and go to different places. One place that Austin goes to is Mid Ohio, which is in the middle of Ohio, so I've heard.
Yeah,
And
it's genuinely smack dab in the middle.
that's a road course. Now, you guys have both been to road course events, and I actually have not. And that'd be a good place to go to soon, because that's actually a place we could probably meet Austin at as well.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, even if we could find like as especially if it's closed or something like drag or drift or something like that, I think would be cool to go see sometime too. I know there's a drag strip on, I think it's 131 South, right there, right before like Kalamazoo area. That one I think would be cool to check out.
Yeah, I know they at least used to have NHRA there. I'm not sure if they do anymore.
Yeah, it looks pretty nice every time I drove by, and it smells really good when you're driving by too.
You ever been to a drag race or a drag strip, Austin?
Yeah, a couple times. I went to one up near Traverse City, Gaylord, somewhere up there. It was like a small town, like some hick shit, like just good old boys, like regular people like us with like somehow they can afford a dragster,
Like a retired airstrip.
pretty much.
Um, I'm not sure if you had anything else to ask Brody before we transition into the video game talk.
No, I think that's it.
All right, so one little segment we like to have, we'll keep Brody in with us on this since he's quite a gamer. Brody and I play Xbox all the time. Um, Brody and I actually we've been playing Rocket League, and it's kind of funny because this story kind of developed even more so since we wrote this podcast outline because we like to play 2v2, but they have 3v3 tournaments in Rocket League. And we went and we lost in the first round way back when. And then we ended up in the second chance tournament.
Yeah. So yeah, we've done that twice now where we had lost in the first round of the main tournament and we get into the second chance tournament and win. And I think it's the only two times we've lost in the first round, we've went and won the second chance tournament. So we're basically the best of the losers. I mean, uh, like you say, I'm a bit of a gamer, but it's not really true. I suck at just about every game. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean we're relatively casual when it comes to stuff like that, but I mean we're decent. I mean we've had platinum, like we've been platinum rank at times, and um, but yeah, we haven't won one of the actual tournaments. It's always been the second chancer, and we actually it's funny because we ended up winning a second one just a few days ago. Um, but it sucks though because we always end up with a random, because it puts us at a disadvantage because there's us two. We don't really have a third person that plays with us, so we always end up with a random person, and who knows how good or bad they're going to be.
Not to mention connection issues with them,
Yes, and
and
you have
then
no idea if
somehow still pull through and win.
they're even going to show up to the match.
Right.
Another game that I've been playing but you finished was Mafia 1, the remake. Um, how do you like that game?
Good game. Yeah, that game. The story was really good. Obviously, it's a little clunky compared to like new games because uh, what was that game made? Probably 8, 10 years ago now.
At
So
least.
it's not going to have like the same graphics and whatnot. But the storyline was great for it. I enjoyed that game a lot.
Yeah, I can't tell exactly how far I am through it, um, but it's been pretty good. I do have to, like you said, you kind of have to put aside the fact that it's like a remake of an older game, so it's a little bit cheesy sometimes, a little bit clunky, but like you said, the story's pretty captivating, and I'm engaged for sure.
Right. Speaking of stories, something we were talking about the other day. Uh, I think I think Austin brought it up. Redoing Red Dead Redemption. That game is insanely good for stories.
Yeah, I'm usually never a fan of replaying a story game, um, but I think if I'm gonna do one, it's gonna be that because of the amount of choice that you have. And I know the first time I went through, I tried to kind of be like a nice guy. I suppose I could always remake it or redo it to where I'm not such a nice guy and see how
Yeah.
things kind of affect the outcome.
I don't mean replay it. I just mean I haven't finished it.
Oh,
Basically, I wanted to be Arthur as much as I could be and get all this stuff as Arthur. So I didn't want to just play through the storyline and then do all this stuff. Like I like Arthur, I want to play as Arthur. So I was trying to do all this stuff before I beat the story, and I was trying to make sure I wasn't like coughing up blood trying to get the snakeskin hat or whatever because it looks sick. So that's what I mean. I
I thought you were
enjoy.
gonna play. You were gonna replay it, and I'm like,
No,
well,
no, and
that's a
like
good idea
Fallout
because that
4,
game.
fucking fantastic game. But that one
Right.
too, like I wanted to be friends with everyone while I found the stuff. That way I wouldn't have to like kill all the um like the AI, the Institute robot people, like the synths if they were in like the one fish packaging place, for instance. You gotta go there to get a bobblehead or something. I wanted to show up there, fool around, get the bobblehead, have them all be nice to me, and then skip skadoodle. And then conversely, I wanted to go like somewhere else where like the Brotherhood were sitting at that one airport, and get the bobblehead there or something. I didn't want to be, have all them be mad at me. So yeah,
Yeah, I remember milking it out on that game for a while too. On Fallout, you could try and be nice for a long time, and then eventually you have to say bye.
yeah, yeah. Eventually, you gotta choose someone to die. I never got to that part. I'm still friends with everyone. I doubt I'll ever play it again, but it was a good time.
Yeah, Brody and I actually ended up finishing, like, quote unquote finishing, the story. There is a lot of like side stuff. Like I try to do side missions, but like all the different fish to catch and animals to hunt and stuff, I never really explored that very far. Um, so maybe that's another thing that I could always do, and I could always do that as not playing Arthur as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it all as John. Eventually, I think I'll just have to like, throw in the towel and give up and and beat the story and then do it as John. But we'll see.
Now there is quite an online element to that game too, and I know myself, Brody, and Justin kind of dabbled in it a little bit. I think it's kind of gotten bigger more recently, but um, that's something that may be worth looking into some more.
I've never touched it. I a lot. I played it like once and I realized like, man, this sucks. Like it is so hard to like get by and do anything, and everyone in there is just a jerk. It's basically like Grand Theft Auto Online. Like it's only fun if you have friends, and it's like so much harder to get started. Like I just pass.
Yeah, we might have to try to get into that some more since we could at least have four of us.
Yeah, since we at least have friends,
We'd be able to at least stand a fight if someone decides to attack us.
right?
Speaking of GTA, that's a story we've all played too, but I think Austin, you've been playing that more recently.
Yeah, just online with my buddies from school. One of them just recently got it for the Xbox One, and we've been playing online and trying to get stuff in the game. And it's a really fun experience to like do all the heists and stuff.
Yeah, is that what you guys
Yeah,
focus on as heists?
Pretty much, yeah, just playing online. And the heists are the easiest way to get like a lot of money, and it's cool just to dick around in there. So we'll like go in and do a couple of setups, maybe do a heist, and then play golf and go to bed.
speaking of a game that has longevity, that game is how long has that been out?
I think it
Like
was like
8 years.
2015. I want to
No,
say,
like
Yeah,
13 is when it
or
came out.
yeah, yeah, because it was
Four is
originally on
15 or 14.
yeah, because it was originally on the 360, wasn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, that game is it's insane how it's still that active. Look
Well,
at
they
Call
keep
of Duty.
adding stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think they're finally starting to really get serious about GTA 6, but they've been like really quiet on letting us know about new things about it, which is kind of a good thing. Seems like Rockstar, man, every time they come out with like a big title, it just completely elevates games of that genre to a whole new level. So like, GTA 5 was a whole new level of like open world for that. And then their next big one was, Red Dead Redemption 2, totally new level of game. So I'm pretty excited for what they have in store for GTA 6.
Yeah, they heard it here first. We want to buy it, so let's get it done.
Yeah,
Chip, chop, chip.
yeah, hopefully it doesn't end up being another Cyberpunk.
Did they make that game as well?
No, no, that
No,
was CG Project Red.
yeah, Rockstar
Well,
wouldn't
thanks for
make a
telling
game
me
like
not to
that.
play it.
Yeah, I decided not get a refund. I'm gonna just kind of wait for the patches and then play it every so often. If the patches are, or if the game is playable, I'll play it. If it's not, I'll put it away for later.
And you get when you get the new Xbox, because I know it runs better on the like Xbox Series X or whatever. If you do get that, can you play it on there too?
I believe so. I believe it does carry over.
I would hope all of our stuff carries over.
Yeah, it
They make
does.
everything digital now,
Well, it
so
carries over,
we
but
have
like
no
it's
choice.
enhanced.
Yeah, there's some titles that have like a little like X nearby them, and it basically Series X enhanced, which means it's slightly a different game than the Xbox One version. And I
Like
think
I
that game
know
is enhanced.
even the Xbox One X, like my dad has that, and if I play Grand Theft Auto downstairs, it's like slightly better than if I played up here because the frame rates are a little bit better. And I just have a regular Xbox One.
Ooh, you don't even have the S?
No, man, I bought this like as soon as I got to college. I got my last paycheck. I was like, "Hey, this is a lot more money than I thought it was going to be from co-op." And I was like, "You know what? Xbox are only like 250, $300, and bought it. Like we're talking like 2015.
Yeah, I got my Xbox One in like 2014, and then eventually got the One X, and then basically put my regular Xbox One in my parents' living room, and just it stayed out there. Like when I moved out, I let them have it, and so that's what they used to watch our broadcasted races and stuff like that, and that's about all it's used for anymore. But um, yeah, now I
I'm
got the
on
One
my
X.
second S.
Yeah,
Gee,
what happened to your first S?
It got stolen along with my projector and nice headset I had while I was stationed in Guam. Very nice people there. Actually, for the most part, the people around there are awesome. It was just a couple delinquents broke into like all of our houses, including special ops guys, and stole like computers and Xboxes and like wedding rings and shit. It was horrible. I was like, I remember like we had like a whatever, and I got up. And I run downstairs and all my shit's gone. I'm like, oh come on! And I was thinking someone had played a trick on me or borrowed it. No, all gone. So I think my house was one of the few in my command that got robbed from. So all the boys pitched in and got me new shit, and I was like, like the day I was leaving or whatever, they give me all this new stuff, and I was like, oh, you guys rock, like that just shows like tight knit community like that is awesome. Some, even no matter how much you can hate on the military if you've been in it or whatever, it does show that the guys got your back.
Shaq's got your back.
You say Jack?
Shaq,
Oh,
like the commercial. Yeah, that is cool though. It's a good ending to kind of a bad story.
right.
Wasn't your might as well talk about it. Wasn't your experience overall in Guam pretty cool though? I mean, it's got to be a cool place to go.
That place is awesome. If you base your whole career on being there, it'd be awesome. But yeah, that's not how it goes. I mean, there's definitely ups and downs for all that stuff, but yeah, Guam's great. Like if you want to like go hiking or diving or anything, there's so many cool things to see. It's got a lot of history on that little island there. Um, you can actually dive in this one spot in between two ships, one from World War I and one from World War II, and you can touch both of them like nose to nose, or bow to bow, I should say. And yeah, it's like where they sank, they kind of just sank right there, facing each other from two different eras. Pretty insane.
Yeah, it's one of those
There's a lot
things.
of cool animals there too, like monitor lizards and stuff you don't see, anywhere else really. I mean, in my experience, I haven't seen lizards and shit like that anywhere else. Giant spiders when you're going hiking and stuff.
It's one of those things like I need to experience kind of the culture shock of being in a just completely different place. Like when you travel in the states, it's like it's familiar enough to where you're kind of you adjust. I was talking with another friend about this the other day. It's like you need to go somewhere where it's like just completely different from how your life works.
I think a lot of people need to do that so that they realize how good they really have it too in some areas.
Yeah, for
My
sure,
opinion.
for sure. I think there's a lot of places that like have misconceptions about them, and the only way that you can really find out how good a place is to actually go there too.
Yeah, that's very truthful as well. There's places where people assume that the locals are bad people, and it's not true at all. Just because, yeah, let's not get into that.
You ever been out of the country, Austin?
no,
Neither have I. Well, that ends that conversation.
I don't see a good reason to go other than to go like see a race or something.
Well, there you
No.
go. Go to a race.
Well,
Like I want to go up to Canada to like Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and like because I mean that's a better track than Coda. The racing up there is always better. and like you could excuse to go to Canada.
I really want to go.
Canadian.
I really want to go to the Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK. That would
Yeah, you were
be.
showing me that the other day. That's awesome.
They
It'd be
have.
cool to go there, but I'm not sure if I'd want to go to Le Mans first.
Le Mans would be cool too. Um, I'd assume it'd be similar to
Nürburgring.
like when Chris goes to Daytona and he can roam around and stuff like that.
I hope so.
But yeah, that Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK and the Goodwood Revival and all this, it's like a whole week of just anything you can think of cars. So you get a chance to be able to look at and get up close to cars that you'd never be able to.
Yeah, like new cars, old cars, historic cars, like cutting edge prototype cars.
Everything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, the
mean, they have.
generations just in that video you showed me of them doing those speed runs or whatever, like the time trial run or whatever it's called. I
Yeah.
don't know what it's called, but just it's amazing seeing some of the stuff that's still running, like from how old it is, like old tractor engine type stuff.
Yeah, like seeing that stuff and like old and new, all kinds of motorsport that you can think of. You got rally, they got their own rally stages, they got car shows, so I assume there's like regular or show cars there too. And being in the UK too, like just the culture of it all is going to be different than on the American side. But there's plenty of American cars there too, along with plenty of famous race car drivers that take part in the festival because they got to have somebody drive these cars at absurd speeds, um, which is cool. And yeah, I think that would just be that's pretty high up on my list to as far as overseas stuff. But
Book it.
yeah, well, as soon as the like as soon as travel, I guess, is a little more normal, then I guess we can make our way over there.
Right. Yeah, I think it'd be cool to go to that. And I don't know much about racing compared to you, but from what I see, that looks awesome to see.
Yeah, for sure.
I gotta imagine it's pretty affordable too. I mean, you probably pay for a week ticket or whatever, and then flights aren't too bad if you plan ahead.
Yeah, I have heard that like Europe in general is more expensive than like Asia. That's just what I've heard. Um,
Well,
but
supply and demand.
but I don't know. I'd say that as far as like a European vacation, I would think that that festival wouldn't be too terribly expensive. Um, oh, one last thing to touch on. I know, Austin, you've been playing Forza Horizon 4. That's a game that Brody and I have played quite a bit.
Yeah, I think I have
Yeah, just
unlimited money on that.
yeah, getting on like every week to do all the events to get like the free cars and stuff they have and the Horizon backstage pass just to look at all the cars and be like, man, these suck.
Yeah, that game's kind of been drained out. I mean, it's a great game, but we just need a new one.
Well,
Um,
we should have had a new Forza Motorsport already, and we might get another one this year. Probably not, though.
yeah, that was kind of sad that we haven't gotten one in the last couple years. I haven't gotten any Forza game in the last couple years.
Luckily, at least Forza can make an arcadey game the right way, where the driving still feels pretty realistic.
Yeah, I hope that they fix the AI in the next game though, where like when you play with
Oh yeah.
friends, the AI for some reason want to netcode India and pull you around and stuff, and it gets kind of whack. But other than that, that's really the only complaint I have about that game. Anywho's, yeah, it was great having you on, Brody. I'm glad we were able to get this whole Discord thing figured out so we could have you on board. Um, I'm sure we'll be talking to you soon. Any last words from you guys or Austin or anything?
No, just thanks for coming on as always. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your support, sir. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I didn't know what to think of this. I mean, I was kind of a little nervous at first, but I mean, you get used to it. You're just talking to your buddies like usual. It just seems a little bit different because you're kind of projecting towards the crowd, I suppose. Um, yeah. Other than that, I mean, I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, thanks for doing this with us. We'll talk to you later for sure. You're free to disconnect.
See you, Brody.
See ya.
Well, that was my best friend, Brody. Um, that was a cool little interview. Brody's got a lot of he's done a lot of interesting stuff, especially with like traveling abroad, and um, he's a cool guy to talk to.
Yep. So, anyways, I guess we'll go into rants and reviews. Kenny, do you want to touch on the Podium Esports 500 first?
Yeah, just for a minute. I basically just I hate that the standard of driving when you get into these paid races lowers so much. Um, People just they don't care, and they make just horrible moves that take themselves out. Even like it's not even moves that just take other people out. And I just 20 lap race, and it was just riddled with cautions for the heat race. And I just couldn't get out of trouble. Now, granted, I really should have qualified better, would have put me in a better position, so that's on me. But um, and I like doing these money races. I like the excitement and the pressure that it puts on you, but it just stinks that the standard of driving lowers so much. With talented drivers too, there's plenty of people in there that know what they're doing. They just can't think with a clear head, and it's just something I was frustrated with this weekend.
So I guess we'll move on to our other rant review and the NASCAR Heat games. Just, they're so bad. Like the physics in them is trash, and the force feedback in them is trash. And you go from like even Forza has it better, and I really wish that NASCAR would just make a deal with like Forza or Codemasters to like put like a season in or more NASCAR tracks if they could scan them. Even like Charlotte would or Atlanta or Texas would be perfect. A short track like Martinsville or Bristol, or hell, even go get one of the tracks that iRacing is scanned, like not North Wilkesboro because they can kind of remake that, but like any just short track.
Yeah, I've not played. Well, I played the first NASCAR Heat like when I came back, or NASCAR Heat Evolution, and it was just god awful. And um, I think that they've gotten better each game, each
They've gotten
rendition.
a lot better.
Yeah,
Like the jump from one to two was huge because you had like the Xfinity cars and the trucks,
but it's
but
just
then the
like
jump from two to three was like not not much. Like you could have your own team, a race or someone else, and you had like a shop. The jump from three to four was pretty much non-existent. And then I haven't touched five, but it's going to be on free to play with gold from February 11th to the 14th. So we'll see what happens.
yeah. I mean, the standard. It just hasn't met the standard of an Xbox One title. Like it's not current gen. Um,
I would even put it like below the Utechnics games
yeah.
because they got substantially better each and every time. Now, granted, they didn't have the Xfinity there or the trucks, and that's kind of inexcusable